Hello everyone. If you have applied for B1, B2 visa or student visa and you have your US visa interview coming up, make sure to watch this video. This is going to be very informative. Let us start. So before I start, I want you to understand section 214B. So this section talks about immigration intent, and this is one reason that the visa officer could give you for your US visa refusal. And this is generally the most common section for visa refusal. So you should understand what immigration intent is. So the visa officer is basically telling you that he thinks that you will not return back to your home country. So he assumes that you will permanently settle in United States, and that is why he gives you this section 214B. And another section that I want you to know is that section 221G. This section deals with incomplete documentation. So this is again a refusal reason section. So if the visa officer thinks that your application is incomplete, if your documentation is incomplete, he can give you this section 221G. The reason why I'm talking about these two sections is because if you know what could get wrong, you could potentially avoid that. So it is important that if you want to do the right thing, you should know what is wrong. So these are two things that you should keep in mind, and from here we will proceed and I'll tell you the mistakes that you should avoid. So the first mistake is that lack of preparation for the interview. So many of you go to the interview without adequately preparing for that. What do I mean by that? For example, you have your DS-160. DS-160 is your visa application form. So when you fill your DS-160, it is your duty to remember everything that is mentioned in there. So every detail that you have filled in DS-160, you should know it by heart. So if you have filled it, you will know it, but I want you to review it. I want you to review every detail, your employment detail, the dates that you have mentioned. For example, there is one question they ask like on which date you want to visit USA. So you must have given a tentative date. You must have given the place that you will be going to. So there are a lot of details like that, and you should know them, because in your visa interview, you should be on top of your DS-160, because you are going to answer a lot of questions to the interviewer, and your answer should match with what you have mentioned in DS-160. So before you go for your US visa interview, you should have in mind what could be the question that the visa officer could ask me, and you should have some answers for that. So you should practice it, because this will give you confidence as well when you go for your interview. So preparation is important. So having talked about this, the second mistake that you could do is information mismatch. I've already talked about this. The information that you have provided in your DS-160 while you were filling the application, and the information that you are providing to the visa officer when he asks you any question, there should not be any mismatch. I'll tell you why. For example, in your DS-160, you have mentioned some other employer, and when the visa officer asks you about where you are working, who's your employer, you are mentioning something else. This is an information mismatch. So if that is the case, if there is information mismatch, the visa officer will get to know, because when you answer him, he is not looking at you in most cases. So with me, what happened was that when he asked me question, I answered him. He was not looking at me. He was actually looking at the screen, and that will not be visible to you. So I presume that he's looking at your DS-160 and he's matching your answer with your application. So it is important that your DS-160 and your verbal response should be aligned. There should be consistency between them. Third mistake that you can avoid is that I have already talked about that you should prepare well for the interview questions. This is one of the interview question. In fact, this could be the first question that they ask you. 95% of the time, this is going to be the first question, purpose of visit. So even if you have prepared for this question, let us say, and you are sure in your mind that if he asks you what is your purpose of visit, you are going to say something like this: I want to visit my family. So do you think this is sufficient? Do you think this is enough? Actually not. So because this visa interview is important, they don't have much time. So on your part, you want to do your best. You want to give your best. So to answer something like this, to visit my family as a reason for your visit, is not enough. So when you answer this, I want to visit my family, there could still be this question in the visa officer's mind: for what? For what you want to visit your family? So it is important that you clear his doubt. So you need to tell them why you want to visit your family. It is very important. So your answer could be something like this. So now when he asks you what is your purpose of visit, you are telling them that you are going to New York. You are telling them that there is an occasion why you are going there. There is an engagement of your brother. So this is a well thought out response, and this will increase the likelihood of you getting your US visa. Again, if you want to visit your sister and you have not met her for a long time, you can tell something like this: I am going to visit my sister whom I haven't seen for a long time. She has been inviting me over for a few years now and I wanted to meet her this time. So these are well thought out response, these are detailed response, and these don't leave any doubt in the visa officer's mind. This question, purpose of visit, is very important, so I am going to emphasize on this a little more, because any follow-up question that the visa officer is going to ask you will depend on your answer to this question. So if you tell them that you are going to visit your family, they will ask you about your family. If you tell them that you are going there for business conference or anything related to trainings, they'll ask you about your employer, they'll ask you about the conference where you are going. So most questions that they ask depends on your answer to this question, purpose of visit. I have just mentioned tourism over here because I see that when they ask people why you want to visit US, they simply mention tourism. That is not the right kind of answer that they are looking for. So you should give them some details. You should have some specifics, where you are going, what place you want to visit. So this should be part of your answer. So if you are going there to attend trainings and conference, if you simply tell them that I'm going to attend trainings and conference, that is not enough. So your answer should have again some details and some specifics. So this is a good answer. I use this answer. I mentioned to them that I'm going to attend trainings organized by my employer at my New York office. But it is important, if you are going for any trainings and any conference, in general they don't ask for any documents, but situations like these are exceptions. They mostly ask document if you are going there for trainings. Now let us talk about proving a strong ties to home country. This is very important because if they refuse your visa, chances are that they'll tell you that you have weak ties to your home country and they'll give you section 214B as the reason for your visa refusal. I'll give you one example. I was talking to this lady a couple of days back and she got her visa rejected, and the reason that the consulate officer gave was that she has weak ties to her home country and she will not return back to her home country. So I'll tell you what happened. So she was applying for visitor visa and she has a husband in United States, and she doesn't have any children. She doesn't work in her home country, and she was not able to establish any strong ties to her home country. So that was a mistake that she did. She couldn't establish any ties, and they thought that she doesn't have children, uh, she doesn't work, and they refused her visa. You should have some connection to your home country, and you should be able to convince the visa officer that you have some connection to home country. If you are a student, if you are studying in your home country, that is your connection to your home country. If you are a father and you have your children in your home country, that is your connection to your home country. Again, if you are a married person and you have your wife or husband in your home country, that is your connection to your home country. Your parents are your connection to your home country. Your job, your employment, that is your connection to your home country. If you are working in your home country, that is your connection. But if you are unemployed, that is a very difficult situation, because he may ask you, what do you do? And if you tell them, the visa officer, that you are unemployed, that reflects poorly on you at that moment, and that could be the reason he could refuse you your visa. So what could you do? So one thing that you could do is that you are in between jobs. You can tell the visa officer you are looking for jobs and you have few employers in mind that you will be giving interviews to once you return back from your vacation from United States. Now let me talk about some other suggestions that I want to give you. So if you have had previous US visa refusals, they will certainly ask you this question: what has changed from last time? So if assuming nothing has changed, if all your data is same, and let us say last time they refused under section 214b, saying that you have weak ties to your home country, you could tell them that maybe there was miscommunication on my end last time. Never blame the officer like they made some mistake and that is why your visa got refused. Never do that. Tell them that there was some miscommunication from your end and that should be good. So next thing that I want to talk about is documents. The reason why I want to talk about documents is that in general they will not ask you for any document except few documents. I have made a video on that. Go check that. So your passport, they'll ask you for that. Your appointment confirmation instruction page, they'll ask you for those documents. Other than that, in general, they will not ask you for any document. However, again, as I have said, that under section 221G, they could refuse your visa for incomplete application documents. So if they are not sure about your funds, if they think that you don't have sufficient fund and you tell them you have sufficient fund, they could ask you for your document. So it is advisable that you carry such documents, especially your bank statement when you go for the visa interview. If you are having your invitation letter from your friends or family who lives in US, carry that document. And especially if you are going to conference and or for attending any trainings, carry document from your employers. So that is all. Other than that, it is very important that you are confident when you are going for your US visa interview, because lack of confidence could suggest to them that there might be something fishy because you are not responding properly. Again, it is very important that you don't over communicate. So don't try explaining everything in detail. Again, that will suggest to them that why is this guy explaining everything in so much more detail. So whatever they are asking, just answer that and it should be good. And you should have sufficient fund, sufficient bank balance for your visit to United States. If you have your US visa interview coming up, make sure to watch my US visa interview questions and answers video. In that video, I have discussed in detail the possible questions with answers that they can ask you. Other than that, you should go and watch my US visa experience video as well, because in that video I have shared my experience, so that could be very helpful for you. You can take away some information from that video as well. And one more thing, let me know in the comment section why do you want to visit United States. Thank you so much.